I am a housewife in my 4th year of marriage. My husband and I worked at the same company. When we decided to get married, my husband said to me,
I want you to quit your job and focus on housework.
Honestly, I wanted to continue working, but I decided to retire and become a homemaker because I wanted to cherish my married life with my husband. My husband thinks it's natural to take care of his parents and wants us to live together. I couldn't believe it. I can't approve of living together without even meeting your parents yet. At least let me greet them before making a decision, I said firmly. My husband reluctantly agreed. We went to visit each other's parents. They were parents who had been seeking to live together even before we got married, so I was wary of them. We went to his parents' house together. However, my parents-in-law were surprisingly kind and welcomed us.
Thank you for coming all the way here. I can't believe such a beautiful bride has come.
I was relieved to hear that. I gathered my courage and asked. My husband said he wanted to live together right after we got married. Is that true? My parents-in-law were surprised and seemed to have no idea. My husband laughed when he saw their reaction.
No, I just made that proposal in the heat of the moment.
No way, the heat of the moment? I thought to myself. He also made a caring statement.
But my parents are getting old, so I think we should consider living together.
I think that's wonderful, but we're newlyweds. I want to cherish our life together as a couple, I said. My parents-in-law agreed with my opinion. He didn't expect his parents to oppose him. He said in a fluster.
I'm just the eldest son. If my mother says they don't need it, I won't force it.
In the end, we didn't live together right after we got married. I thought that if we lived with those parents, there would be no problem. We decided to live together 2 years after we got married. The reason was that my father-in-law passed away due to illness. As a result, my mother-in-law was left alone at home, and my husband was worried about her, so he proposed that she live with us. My husband spoke with a serious expression. My mother-in-law kindly refused, saying,
But I'm still healthy, and I can't trouble you too.
I don't think it's a bother. I'm also worried about you. Please don't hesitate to rely on us, I said.
I see, thank you both.
My mother-in-law said happily, and seemed to be moved to tears. She must have been sad and lonely after losing her beloved father-in-law. My mother-in-law agreed to live together. We canceled our rental apartment and moved to my in-laws' house right away. Living together with my in-laws was very peaceful. During the day, it was just my mother-in-law and me, but she was very kind and taught me many things. My mother-in-law and I became closer and closer.
You're really obedient and kind.
My husband was like that when he was a child, wasn't he?
Oh, my son is also unfriendly, but my daughter is even more so.
My mother-in-law answered. Daughter refers to my sister-in-law. My sister-in-law is married, but she hardly ever comes back to my in-laws' house. The first time I met my sister-in-law was at my wedding with my husband, and the next time was at my father-in-law's funeral. We never had a chance to meet because my sister-in-law's family never came to my in-laws' house for New Year's or Christmas.
My daughter always rebels against me and my husband. Well, as parents, it's a little sad, but we can't force her to come and see us.
When my mother-in-law talks about my sister-in-law, she looks sad. It seems that my parents-in-law had a hard time raising their children. My husband probably said things that were convenient for him and made things difficult for his parents.
That's why I was so happy when a wonderful daughter-in-law like you came.
When my mother-in-law said that, I was truly happy. I love you like my own mother. I expressed my gratitude. I thought of her as my real mother. I don't understand why my sister-in-law hates such a wonderful mother-in-law. However, because they are related by blood, they may be stepping on each other's toes too much and sometimes clash. I couldn't solve or intervene in this situation, so I just tried to maintain a good relationship with my mother-in-law. One day, my mother-in-law fell off her bicycle while riding it and broke her arm. Until now, we had divided the housework between the two of us, but now that my mother-in-law was injured, I had to do everything. I had difficulty doing some things alone because we usually did the heavy work together. My mother-in-law seems to be having a hard time living with only one arm. So I asked my husband to help my mother-in-law a little bit. Then my husband made a face that clearly showed he didn't want to.
I'm tired from work.
I know. But your mother-in-law has a broken arm. You know how hard it is for her to do her daily routine.
It's a hassle.
I was surprised. I thought he should do something for his parents. My husband suggested living together because he wanted to show that he was taking care of his parents. At a meeting with former colleagues, I learned that my husband was proud of being a loving husband and taking good care of his parents. However, in reality, I did all the housework and communication with my mother-in-law. My husband was lazy and relaxed. I was dissatisfied that he wasn't cooperative with his own mother. 3 months later, my mother-in-law's arm was completely healed. I was happy.
I'm sorry for causing you trouble.
It's okay. We're family.
You're really kind. Compared to my son. You can throw him away anytime.
Throw him away.
I want you to be happy.
My mother-in-law said kindly. One day, my sister-in-law suddenly came to my in-law's house. My mother-in-law was surprised.
I wanted to see my mother's face after a long time. I heard you broke your arm, so I was a little worried. But I'm relieved to see that your arm is healed and you're healthy.
My sister-in-law said shyly. My mother-in-law was surprised that my sister-in-law came suddenly and said such kind words.
Hey, react to something. I don't want to look like a fool for being kind.
Oh, sorry. I was happy and surprised at the same time.
My mother-in-law was very happy. Seeing my mother-in-law happy, I suggested that we all have coffee together. My sister-in-law was a little awkward at first, but she relaxed and talked with my mother-in-law. I was relieved to see them getting along.
I'm sorry I couldn't show you my child's face. I'll bring my husband and child to play next time.
Yes, I'm waiting.
Mother-in-law answered happily. After that, my sister-in-law started coming to my parents' house regularly on holidays with her husband and children. Her husband and children were very nice people. My mother-in-law was very happy to interact with her grandchildren. It took time, but I thought it was good that the relationship between my mother-in-law and sister-in-law improved. However, for some reason, my husband didn't seem to like that my sister-in-law was getting along with my mother-in-law.
You've been coming over too much lately.
What's the problem? We're the ones living with my mother-in-law.
It's unfair that she comes over occasionally and gets along with my mother.
My husband continued.
She's just trying to flatter my mother. This makes the meaning of me living together with you guys meaningless.
I couldn't believe my ears. My husband was living with us to gain favor with my mother-in-law and get more inheritance than my sister-in-law. I was disappointed. I think my mother-in-law would be very sad if she knew her son's thoughts. In the midst of all this, an unexpected event happened. At that time, I had business at my parents' house and had been staying there since the day before. The next day, when I was about to return to my in-laws' house, my husband called me. I didn't feel like talking to my husband, but the phone kept ringing, so I reluctantly answered.
I got a call saying that my mother collapsed and was taken to the hospital.
I was suddenly at a loss. I immediately headed to the hospital. It was a scorching day, and my mother-in-law had collapsed from heat stroke. She was weeding the garden when a neighbor found her lying in the yard and called an ambulance. My husband couldn't come right away because of work. So he asked me to go to the hospital instead of him. I hurried to the hospital, but I was dissatisfied with my husband's self-centered attitude. I thought he would normally interrupt his work and come running. When I arrived at the hospital, my sister-in-law arrived soon after.
My mother collapsed?
Yes, she's still in a very dangerous condition. When I told her that, my sister-in-law smiled.
Now her inheritance is mine. It's faster than I thought. Well, let my mother rest in peace.
To my surprise, she said that in front of my mother-in-law. I was stunned by the situation. Are you serious?
What, are you also after the inheritance?
She replied. That's not true, I denied. My sister-in-law was suspicious of me.
I don't know. I've been suspicious since I heard that my brother is living with my parents. Aren't you guys after that big house?
She said. I told you that's not true.
Come on, show your true colors. You don't do anything nice for your husband's mother without any benefits.
She said. I wondered if this person had a human heart.
I'll be the one to get the inheritance.
My sister-in-law said and left. Afterward, my mother-in-law, who I thought was bedridden, suddenly got up with a smile. I was so surprised that my heart was pounding.
Looks like that child was after my inheritance.
My mother-in-law said. Are you okay? I asked, worried.
I'm fine, it was just heat stroke.
She said. But the doctor said you were in critical condition earlier, I said.
I actually told them this situation and asked them to make it look like that. As a parent, I knew whether my daughter and son were really worried about me or not. I had a feeling. But I still had a little hope and wanted to see what their reaction would be if I really became critically ill.
My mother-in-law revealed the truth to me.
There are a lot of things to do. Will you help me?
She asked. My mother-in-law was discharged immediately and started preparing for something that could be called revenge against my sister-in-law and husband. A month later, my mother-in-law called my sister-in-law's family and gathered everyone in the living room, including me and my husband.
Thank you all for coming.
My mother-in-law said.
What's the matter, mother?
My sister-in-law asked.
Calling all of us here means it's an important matter, right?
My husband said, seeming a little irritated. That was because my mother-in-law was discharged immediately because she had heat stroke, not a serious illness. My mother-in-law talked about inheritance and the future.
I've thought about a lot of things since I collapsed last time. About the distribution of the inheritance.
My mother-in-law said. When she said that, my sister-in-law and husband's expressions changed.
So which one of us will get more?
My sister-in-law asked.
Of course, I'll be the one to get this house.
My husband said. I was disgusted by the two of them who were so greedy. However, my mother-in-law continued her story without worrying about it.
My decision is to sell this house.
My husband and sister-in-law froze at my mother-in-law's words.
What do you mean?
My sister-in-law asked.
Why sell it? It's such a waste. If you're going to sell it, give it to us.
No, it's the house we used to live in. I should inherit it.
My husband said. The two of them argued, but my mother-in-law calmly replied.
You only think about yourselves. Even when I collapsed or at other times, you only thought about how to get more inheritance from me. I know everything.
My sister-in-law and husband turned pale at my mother-in-law's words.
That's why I'm going to leave you without any inheritance.
My mother-in-law declared.
What?
My husband asked.
I'm going to use the money from selling this house and my pension to move into a nursing home. I'll live there until I die, and when I go to the other side, I'll donate all my assets.
My mother-in-law said.
That's such a waste.
My sister-in-law said.
I'm doing it because I love you.
My mother-in-law replied. My sister-in-law and husband couldn't hide their surprise and disappointment. I secretly admired my mother-in-law's decision as I watched them.
That's not how parents can continue to be loved when they're being used conveniently. I'm cutting off the relationship between you and me. Forget about the inheritance and think about living your own lives.
My mother-in-law said calmly.
That's not fair. I was planning my future with the inheritance in mind.
My sister-in-law said. She fell to her knees, but it wasn't just my mother-in-law who abandoned them.
Your selfishness is too much for me. Divorce me.
My sister-in-law's husband said.
What? Why are you leaving me too?
My sister-in-law asked in surprise. But her husband continued.
Do you want to spend your life with a woman who would be happy to hear that your mother-in-law is in critical condition? It's bad for the children's education too. I'll divorce you and take the children. Let's talk through lawyers.
There, my husband interrupted our conversation.
That's too much, isn't it? Even though she's such a hopeless sister, isn't divorce going too far?
Although my husband said that, his statement had a sarcastic tone towards my sister-in-law.
Oh, you two will end up getting a divorce.
My mother-in-law said to my husband.
Huh.
I can't live anymore with you.
Wait, why are you saying that?
My husband was surprised, but I continued talking. I've been putting up with you so much in our married life. I've reached my limit with this incident. I'm definitely getting a divorce too, I declared. I took all my belongings and went back to my parents' house after saying goodbye only to my mother-in-law. Afterwards, I demanded a divorce from my husband through a lawyer and said that I would fight until the end in court. My husband agreed to the divorce, perhaps out of fear of the trial. My sister-in-law and her husband also got divorced in a similar way. My mother-in-law and I still keep in touch. My mother-in-law bought me an apartment as a thank you for working hard on housework during our cohabitation and getting along well with her. Thanks to her, I can live a very comfortable life. I also found a job in the end, and it seems that I can save more and more money from now on. My mother-in-law moved into a luxury nursing home and seems to be enjoying herself with her friends. When I visit her occasionally, she talks about her daily life with enthusiasm. By the way, my ex-husband rented an apartment, but since there was no one to do the housework, the room became dirty and he is mentally exhausted. He relied on his inheritance and has no savings. Furthermore, my husband was quite lazy during our marriage, so his appearance has also deteriorated. Such a terrible man would be happier being single for the rest of his life. As for my ex-sister-in-law, she tried to get money by hitting on men indiscriminately and became a marriage fraudster, losing all the money she obtained from the property division. She sent me an email asking for help, but when I ignored her, she stopped contacting me. I don't know how she's doing now, but neither my ex-husband nor my ex-sister-in-law are leading a decent life. I will forget about them and try to challenge myself to do what I want and enrich my life. How was this story? Please consider subscribing to my channel. See you in the next video.